Hi everybody, this is Spring again, and I am testing my new lapel mic today. For those of you who don't know, I announced on my community page that I would be doing a little bit of a mic test, and I thought instead of just testing it and throwing away the recording, I would test it and make a little bonus content for you from it. So on my community page, I posted saying that I would try to answer some additional questions that anybody might have, because I always feel badly that I can't get around to answering every single one of my questions asked in my comments. I always really appreciate the comments and love them, and some of you will ask some of the most fun questions and things that make me laugh, and you also have some really interesting suggestions, and I get a lot of good ideas for things to watch, read, play, check out from you guys too. I've always felt sort of a nice sense of shared taste and that type of thing. I think that's one really nice thing about YouTube is you end up connecting with people in the same kind of niches as you, and so you tend to end up liking the same kinds of media and the same kinds of art, and appreciate a lot of the same kinds of themes and things like that. So I always think it's fun to do just kind of more of like a very casual hangout kind of thing. So I thought I would try to answer some of your questions just to say thank you for all of that. I really enjoy that kind of engagement, especially lately. I have been not feeling great, as some of you know, and so it's been a nice little way to feel like I have some additional contact, especially with people in further parts of the world. I haven't really been able to travel as much, and so I just love getting to know what you guys are up to and kind of what's going on in other parts of the world, and what you're doing in your lives and what you're enjoying, and also sharing whatever you want to know back with you. So this is going to be really casual. I'm going to try to do a little bit of typing some sort of short responses, distilling down a quick response to the commenters in the comment section on my community page, so you might hear me typing a little, and then I'll give a longer, more extemporaneous answer here, just rambling a little bit. The sound might not be perfect. Like I said, I'm just testing this new mic, and as I am not feeling particularly well, I've been pretty feverish, and it is, I believe, in the 110s outside today, so I am leaving my air conditioning on, so you might hear that come on and off. And also my kitty cat Etienne is roaming around, so he might come and say hello or purr a little bit for you guys. So but with that said, I thought it would be fun to just relax and chat a little bit and try to get to some of your questions. To try to make it fair, what I've done is over the last few days since I posted on the community page, I've been refreshing my creator app, and whatever is at the top, the comment that just pops up on the top of the dashboard, I've just jotted down a few of the keywords from that question, and made a kind of a list of them on my notebook here, and I'm going to just go through and find those questions and answer them. That way it was almost like randomly selecting them from a hat, because I can't answer every single one. I was trying to find a way to choose ones sort of blindly, so I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially what I kept doing is over the last week or so since I posted, I've been randomly at different times and different days refreshing the app, and whichever came up on top of the dashboard at the time, just randomly, I jotted down that question, and so I'm going to answer those questions that I kind of randomly selected, just to try to keep it fair. I always hate not getting around to everyone's question, but if you guys enjoy this, it's something I can do another time, and I can also try to get back into the community page later on and just type some additional answers too. If you guys don't know how to get to the community page, every creator on YouTube has one, so you can just go to my channel and there's a little community tab, or you can subscribe to the channel, and I believe that you get notifications when I post to the community page there, just like you get notifications about videos. So I'm actually going to log in now and try to find the questions that you guys all asked. So let's see if I go to my page, and I am going to go to my community page here. And yes, thank you for 174 comments. So I apologize that I won't get to every single one of them. But the first one I got was about, let's see if I can find it. The first one I wrote down was a question about if I listen to or watch other YouTubers that aren't ASMR. So let me see first if I can scroll through here and find it. And then I'll try to answer this question for you. This is probably not the most organized way to do this. You know what? I think this is not the most organized way to do this. It's going to take me a long time to scroll through and find these answers. So, instead, what I'm going to do is I am just going to, I think I'm just going to answer them. And since I promised typing sounds, I will, I'm just going to kind of type out little answers on my notepad here, just to kind of give you guys some typing sounds anyway, and organize my thoughts that way. I kind of like to type or write as I think about answering questions anyway. So I know the question was, and I apologize to not have then your names to answer these questions, but I know that the question was if there are any non-ASMR YouTubers that I enjoy. And so I will say that yes, I actually am not somebody who has watched a whole lot of YouTube. When I first started posting on YouTube, I actually was a huge YouTube neophyte. The only thing I really did watch on YouTube, apart from, you know, back then the kind of typical meme kind of stuff, you know, I have my favorite go-to like silly YouTube videos that always make me laugh, like that. Do you guys remember the Fenton dog video where it's like Fenton the dog has escaped and he's running amok, and I think there's all these like sheep or cattle that have like escaped and are running, and there's a man just shouting Fenton, Fenton. Like that is that will make me laugh no matter what. There's this one where there's a guy pretending to be Jigsaw from those from Saw, those Saw movies, and he's like on a tricycle and he falls over. That one always makes me laugh. And then the kid who's like who's like, I can't believe you've done this, who gets kind of like smacked by his roommate. It's very mean-spirited, but when I was a kid, that video always made me laugh. So anyway, before I started posting ASMR on YouTube or watching ASMR before that, really I only watched YouTube for those kinds of things, you know, little cute animals and things like that, and trying to find, sometimes, and I still watch it sometimes for this, trying to find like old black and white movies that are hard to find. Sometimes people will be awesome and post those in their entirety, things like that. anyway, now one of my favorite creators that's not an ASMR channel is called Kane Pixels. So that's KanePixels, Kane Pixels. He started out when he was a teenager. I'm sure a ton of you know who he is because he's huge. He has done the series The Oldest View, the back rooms, which is amazing. He does all of this kind of he does this really atmospheric kind of like horror, like liminal spaces, and is just an incredible creator. I think he now has a deal with A24 to make a full-length feature film, and I'm sure with A24 it will be exhilarating and really interesting. So I love Kane Pixels, and that kind of thing. I really like YouTubers who take it as a chance to just show the world their vision for things. I also like some commentary channels. My friend, my really good friend Matt from Mattastic ASMR recently turned me on to Jenny Nicholson. Jenny Nicholson is sort of, I guess, what people would call a commentary creator. But she does, like deep dives is what people call them. She did a really interesting, fun one on the Star Wars Hotel, and does like theme park content and stuff like that. But her Star Wars Hotel video, I think, was like 5.5 hours or something, and I watched every minute of it. I was totally enthralled. It was great. So I like some commentary channels like hers too. And then there's some podcasts and things that I watch where I watched I actually watch them recording sometimes, but it's nice to have the actual visual content as well. So there's stuff like that. But then, of course, there are still ASMR channels I watch too. But yeah, that's kind of mostly the stuff I like. But definitely this is a place where more and more, especially because I have been in bed a lot more, or like getting treatment and stuff, if you guys have suggestions, especially for interesting deep dive type of stuff, curiosities, history, philosophy, like please, I would love to know your recommendations for channels, because I am getting more and more into watching YouTubers, and I really like I like knowing about like cultural things that right now lately it's nice to know about things that aren't too terribly heavy, just because I feel like the news can be so heavy. It can be nice to hear about things like the Star Wars Hotel that are just sort of culturally fascinating and don't feel too high stakes. But anything is good. If it's interesting to you, please let me know. I'd love to hear more about it. And thank you for a great question. I think that's a really fun one. Okay, so the next one, the next question was about parenting. And I actually know that this one came from Ariadne the Dreamer, because I love that name, Ariadne the Dreamer. It's a beautiful, beautiful name. I love Greek mythology, and that's just so lovely. And Ariadne had said, I am in the thick of early motherhood with 2 under 2 and would love to know any reflections you have and are willing to share on your own personal growth as a mother. First of all, I just want to say 2 under 2, you deserve a medal. I don't know when you sleep, but I just am wishing you so much comfort. Please do something amazing for yourself today. I think that raising 2 kids under 2, my brother and sister-in-law are doing the exact same thing right now, and it is beautiful and chaotic and exhausting and lovely, and I'm sending you and your family all kinds of love. I think you're a hero. I remember being so tired at that age, and I just had just one, so yeah, just sending you all my respect. On my personal growth as a mother, there's so much I could say. And I think that it's pretty constant. You know, I will say this, that right now, the biggest thing I have to reflect on is, and if I'm going to say like a parenting reflection, the biggest thing I would say is I have to let go of how I planned for it all to look. For me, that's very relevant to now. I'm someone who has tried very hard to be very involved and very leaned in, as it were, every single day. I've tried to have very high standards for myself as a mother in terms of just how much I can give of myself every day to my son. And since getting diagnosed with cancer, I have had my energy levels and my health levels just plummet. And people ask me a lot about how I'm doing, and the health stuff is like, you know, I am not the first and will not be the last person, unfortunately, to have cancer. And so luckily for me, there's lots of guidance on how to do it, and resources, you know, for how to navigate the health stuff. But the mom stuff, the parent stuff is that's the stuff I'm having the most struggles with, because I have always imagined that being a mom should look this way, and that as a mom, this is how I am. And suddenly I can't, you know, I can't, I literally and figuratively can't keep up. And I went into a pretty dark moment. I say moment, but it was longer than a moment, of really judging myself really, really harshly for, in my head, failing. And how was I failing? I was failing because I needed to just adapt, you know, as all parents do, because we have a plan for how we want to be there for our kids, and guess what? Life changes. Sometimes we think we're going to be able to give everything we have to our kid, and then life happens. People get hurt, people get sick, other people need us, other children get sick. We lose our jobs, we need to take on other jobs. There are all kinds of things in this life that will present themselves to us. And I think my biggest reflection is that just because the mom I am today is not the exact same mom I was yesterday, and it's not the exact same mom I've always planned to be in my head, it does not mean that I cannot be a loving mother. And so I'm just finding ways to show up, even if that means that instead of running around with my son, we snuggle together in bed and play Minecraft and read stories and have a pillow fight, you know. And that judging myself for that is helpful to absolutely no one. I imagine having two children, especially two young ones. Stuff comes up all the time where you're torn between giving attention to one child or the other. I know that, you know, for parents who are working, having to take off the professional hat, put on the parenting hat, and transition between those is so much. So wherever you are in your parenting journey, please give yourself the grace of just knowing that just because you're not that halcyon parent from your memory or from your aspirations, you can still have this great golden love, and you don't ever have to think that your child sees it that way. You know, what occurs to me is that, you know, and I bet Ariadne and anyone else listening with children, or even people who don't have children, who have pets or loved ones, you know, what you do with those you love is this. when they do something that's not perfect, right? When they go through a time or a behavior, or they do one single thing and it's not executed perfectly, or it's not done with absolute grace, you never look at them and think, you're not enough, you're not good enough, I don't accept you. You look at them and you think, you're everything. That's all I ever think with my son. I'm never, ever, ever thinking of him as less than everything. Even when things are absolutely nuts, I'm not saying I don't get frustrated. I'm not saying I don't get demoralized sometimes. but he's never less than everything in my heart. And I want to say to you and to anyone who is a parent or just a person, the person in your life, whether it's your children, your partner, your parents, your pet, the person in your life that you give the most grace to, just save a sliver of that for yourself. If someone else can be everything to you, even when they're so imperfect, like, you can be okay too. And so I know that sounds sort of platitudinous or banal, but I really truly mean it. It's something I'm working on. So I invite all the parents out there and just all of the people out there struggling to hang in there for themselves and to show up for someone else, that like we can be there for ourselves and be there for someone else. Even if we're not doing it perfectly, we can do it beautifully and with love and integrity. And anyway, that went off the rails and was really long, but it's such a beautiful question, asked in such a lovely way, and I appreciate it. And I just wish you lots of love, and to all of the parents out there, lots and lots of love too. And okay, so the next question was a nice, simple one, but a good one, I think, and one that actually I would ask back to all of you if you feel like in the comments, because it's always kind of a fun party game question, is the old desert island question, right? So someone asked about my desert island book, album, movie, and game. So this is always hard. I'm sure it's hard for all of you guys too, because you inevitably think, oh, I'm leaving something out. So please, please, please forgive me for leaving out so many great, beautiful ones, but I'm going to try really hard to limit myself just to one. These are all very hard for me, as I'm sure they're hard for all of you, but I'm going to try really, 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 really hard to just... Books are especially hard for me. My first love was reading, and I was an English major in college, and I was a writer by profession, so books are my absolute joy. And I will narrow this down, even though it's a real Sophie's choice, but I always have to go back and say Germinal by Emile Zola. And this is a book originally written in the French, and no, I cannot read it in the French, and that is to my detriment. I probably have not fully experienced it, but Germinal by Emile Zola. My kitty cat Etienne is named after the main character in Germinal. Germinal is part of a bigger, much bigger cycle by Emile Zola, and I recommend this book to all radicals out there. It is long and hard and very rewarding, and it's a real, I don't know, I think of it as kind of an internal odyssey, and there's always a lot of exegesis and strife and everything that Emile Zola does. And anyway, I could go on, but yes, Germinal would be my number one choice. Although, as far as books that would be good on a desert island, I also think something really fun and episodic, like The Count of Monte Cristo, would be such a good choice, or anything by Tolstoy also, again, really episodic, epic, with lots of characters. Those kinds of books would be absolutely wonderful on a desert island as well. Album, this is so difficult, but album, I would just go ahead and say Substance by New Order. I know I'm very predictable, but I'm going to have to go there, Substance. It's really, really hard, but New Order, most of you know, is such a foundational band for me, and Substance is has so much music that for me captures their I think their reemergence and the sort of metamorphosis and the story, I think, of New Order as an act of courage and rebirth in a way that makes them so inspiring to me. And plus it's just gorgeous. So Substance by New Order would be my album. Movie, oh my goodness. Okay, movie is so hard. Do you go for like a comfort movie that you just like want to spend time in? Do you go for a movie that's just great? I think for me, with a movie, I'm gonna say a movie that feels comforting, that I can just watch over and over again. So my comfort go-to movie is probably Howl's Moving Castle. I can just watch it again and again. Like, that's my, if I'm not feeling great or whatever, just have it on in the background, like calm me down kind of movie. But I don't know, that or maybe Throne of Blood. Throne of Blood is so good, and it is also one thing, if you guys like Kurosawa movies and haven't seen Throne of Blood for some reason, please go do it. Do it right now. It's so good. It's based on Macbeth, which is also a favorite of mine. I'm not like a crazy into Shakespeare person, but I really love Macbeth, and I love Throne of Blood. I love most retellings of Macbeth, but nothing is as good as Throne of Blood to me. So yeah, and the movie I've probably seen the most amount of times next to Howl's Moving Castle is Face Off with Nick Cage and John Travolta. Let me look up the year on Face Off. This is just because this is my, like, everyone has a go-to ridiculous movie, right? Face Off is from 1997, and yeah, that's a John Woo classic, so that might also be up there. It's absolutely bonkers. Okay, so but moving on to game. Video game. Okay. Video game is really hard. I'm gonna say Final Fantasy VI. It was released as Final Fantasy III in the United States. I'm trying to remember the year that it came out. Let's look it up. Final Fantasy VI came out in North America in 1994. I was very, very, very little, but I kind of grew up playing it. It would be really close between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger. Similar games from like what I consider the golden age of Square Enix. I know people nowadays don't tend to like slow turn-based menu JRPGs, but hey, I still do, always will. So those are my desert islands. I love to hear any of yours though in the comments. I always think they're super fun. Okay, so let's see what other interesting questions were kind of written down here. Okay, so somebody asked, have I ever done a role play have I ever done a role play as a real job? Like, have I ever done any of the things I've role played in my videos as a real job? So, as a real job, I am trying to think. They mentioned like the hotel, like hotel like a hotel checker-inner, a hotel clerk. I've not worked in a hotel. That idea just came to me because I actually do sometimes get ASMR checking into hotels. So that's why I did the hotel check-in all those years ago. And that's how I decided to do my role plays. It's just like, do I get ASMR from these experiences in real life? But I don't think so. One job I did have, though, I'm gonna write it down right here. Okay, so one job I had that I have always wanted to make as a role play was my very first job, which was as an optometric technician. And the reason I haven't ever done that role play yet is because I don't have the equipment, right? When I would do those, I would have a visual field machine, an auto-refracting machine, and obviously all kinds of eye charts and things like that. I think I could probably manage it, with just an eye chart and stuff like that, but I always like the kind of clicking sounds, like the click of adjusting the little lenses and things like that. But my very first job was as an optometric technician working in an eye clinic. I loved that. And then after that, I worked at Build-A-Bear Workshop. I think that could actually make a really good role play too, the Build-A-Bear, because I had to give this spiel about, like, back then it was really different. I actually was at so I used to live near Seattle. There's a place called Alderwood Mall outside of Seattle, and I was one of the first people to work at that Build-A-Bear when it opened. And when it first opened there, it was very formal. Like, it was a big deal. Now it's kind of low-key, but back then every person who came in, you had to give them this big spiel about welcome to the workshop and this is how you do it. And I gave that spiel so many, hundreds, thousands of times, like each week. I think it can make a good role play because you touch the stuffed animal. They call them bear skins, which kind of creeps me out, but I think it could be a really good role play. So apart from that, I have done tutoring and teaching. So I've done some teaching role plays, but I've never actually taught rhetoric or actually I think maybe those are the role plays I've done. I'm not a professor of rhetoric, obviously, in real life. Although I did want to be, I did want to get my PhD in rhetoric and composition, but life went in a different direction for me. But yes, so that's a great question, though. No, I haven't technically, though, ever done a role play that was exactly a job that I have had. But I do have a couple coming up that I think will be more relevant, including a teaching one coming up really soon that's using some of my actual teaching materials and things like that. So we'll be integrating some more of those things. There's also certain things I do in parenting now that I'm kind of thinking about integrating more into some role plays as well. So anyway, stay tuned for that kind of stuff. Okay. This one was sort of relevant to that. It was, which role play would you like to live out, like do for a living? And again, they mentioned, actually this person must know me so well because they mentioned, for example, the onsen role play. And you know me so well because that is exactly the one that I would choose. The follow-up to the hotel role play I did, the second hotel check-in role play I did, the onsen one, was based on my time in Kinosaki onsen. which is an onsen town in Japan in the mountains, and it is the most glorious little town in the world. It is so cute, and there's like a little waterway that runs through it, and cherry blossoms and bridges, and there's all kinds of onsen and ice cream, and it's like onsen, ice cream, and beer. I don't really drink beer, but like onsen and ice cream I could do all day, every day. It's so good, and I love really, 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 really hot water. So just in this beautiful mountain town. So I would love to just run an onsen or a ryokan and live in the mountains, and I think that'd be amazing. I would love that. And I guess this isn't totally a role play, but I would love to be like an F1 commentator. And I'm sure a million people could do it more capably, but I have enjoyed the videos talking about F1. I always thought it would be really, really fun to be able to go around the world to the Grand Prix and interview the drivers and talk about race technique and all of the trackside politics and stuff like that. So I think that would be super, super fun too. So great question. Thank you so much. These are really creative and fun. Let's see. I kind of scribbled these all over in this thing. Oh, okay, this is a really beautiful one too. So this was from Serena Bran, and she said, what advice would you give to a woman that feels almost ready to have a child but is filled with anxiety about motherhood? Just hi, and what a lovely question. Just like I was saying, I think it's very hard to date in this day and age. I think the thought of becoming a parent must be so scary. It was scary for me 7 years ago. It's got to be terrifying now. I think there's less resources for parents now than ever before. I think there's more financial stress and more just burden on young parents than ever before, on young people than ever before. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you didn't have anxiety, you wouldn't be anywhere near ready to be a parent because there's a lot to think about. I think your anxiety means that you are gauging things appropriately and that you are somebody who is thinking about the big picture realistically. And so even though it's really, really difficult, I think that means that your protective senses as a mother are already intact and they're already functioning, as strange as that sounds. I think the most deleterious component out there for potential parents today is social media. And I think that social media can be beautiful, wonderful, in so many ways. And I think there are some resources and ways to connect for parents in social media that can be good. I don't mean to demonize it on the whole. But there's so much performative mothering and parenting out there. And it is just, that's not what it is. The cleaner and more sterile something looks, with children involved, probably the less fun it is, right? If everyone's wearing perfectly matched, unstained outfits and somebody's having to take pictures of it and everybody's got really nice ringlets in their hair, like, it can't be that fun. That's just my take. So whatever you see, whatever messages are being shown to you constantly about what parenting should look like and what mothering should look like, just please don't let that intimidate you, because that is just like anything else on Instagram. It's a very pretty lie and it's part of the story, and it's fine. Everybody has a right to show off the beautiful parts of their life, but just remember that there's always chaos, and chaos is fine. Please don't be intimidated by that. I think most of all, that love is just a whole lot like courage. It's not the absence of fear. It's going forth even when it's scariest. parenting, the people I know who do it the best are the people who were the most freaked out by it. The people I know who went into it really cocksure that they were going to rock it and be perfect at it were probably the people who stumbled the most. Because I find that people who admit some doubt are the ones who are adaptable, who are willing to learn, who are willing to understand that every child is pretty different, and so you will grow with your child, and that's really as it should be. So to be honest, I think that if you're asking me this question, you're probably asking yourself this question. You're probably asking other people this question. Your heart's asking the right questions. And I think that anxiety is healthy. Let it lead you to a kind of confidence that you have it in you to do this if this is where life leads you. And I think that the most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful parents, they evaluate themselves all the time, and that is not doubting themselves every single moment, but it's allowing themselves to know that, it's not about some external report card. It's just about asking yourself, am I doing the best for my child? Am I showing up? And, sometimes you get these moments of seeing yourself as you are and thinking like, yeah, I'm doing this. I can do this. And you build on that, and it is absolutely incredible. So if your journey takes you there, let me know. I'd love to know how it goes for you. I completely believe in you. I asked myself that question for so many years, up until the second I had my baby in my arms. And even then, before I could see his face, I didn't know if I could do it. I remember looking at the back of his head as I held him in my arms, and I just kept thinking, I just have to see your face. I have to see your face to know this is all real. And the second he looked at me, something clicked. And I was like, okay, I'm holding you and I'm not going to drop you. And because I was always afraid I would drop him. And something in my arms just felt more steady. Something will click for you too, I believe. And so I just wish you love and confidence. But I love this question because I relate to it so much. I just see so much of myself in it. So just, yeah. Please feel free to reach out and let me know how your journey goes, Serena Brand. That's a lovely question. Okay. Favorite cyberpunk novel. Okay, that's a fun question. A little bit short of an answer. I'm sorry I'm rambling on so much. You guys are just lovely. Okay, so my favorite cyberpunk novel. Okay, so if we're going to go really, really classic, like straightforward cyberpunk, I've got to say Neuromancer. And let's check the date that Neuromancer was written, actually, because and this is, sorry if it's kind of a boring answer. I really, really believe that without Neuromancer, 1984, perfect, right? So Neuromancer by William Gibson is kind of, if you don't know, the progenitor for the whole genre of cyberpunk, and it is great. It is fast moving. It's got these flashes, little vignettes of the most beautiful writing. There's this line in it, I always remember, where he's talking about, the main character is talking about a woman and how her upper lip is like a bird flying in the sky. It's just, there's all these beautiful little moments of poetic language that feel very analog, suddenly parsed in with this like highly, highly digitized landscape. And I don't know, it's quite glorious. It's such a treat visually, and of course it's a book, but you see it all in your mind. Um, so highly recommend Neuromancer, of course. This is controversial because I wouldn't quite call it cyberpunk, but I also really like the novel This Perfect Day. This is not straight cyberpunk. Let me check the year on This Perfect Day, because this would be, I think, earlier. What year is this from? Oh, actually, it's later. So, This Perfect Day was written by Ira Levin, actually in 1992. I always thought it was a little bit earlier because Ira Levin wrote so much of his stuff a bit earlier than that. This Perfect Day is more like, it's dystopian, it's technocratic, so everything is very tech-based. It's taking the idea of the dystopian novel, but I do think there's some highly cyberpunk elements to it. But because it's Ira Levin, who also wrote The Stepford Wives, Rosemary's Baby, there's like these atmospheric, kind of dreadful elements in the characterization and in the society that is kind of pulling in all around our main character in This Perfect Day. And so I think it's taking the dystopian novel and the cyberpunk form and kind of blending them together a little bit with Ira Levin's style of kind of domestic horror, and blending them all together in a way that's really, really fun and spooky. So This Perfect Day is another one that I would recommend if you like cyberpunk, but if you like something that's a little bit more speculative fiction too. So anyway, those are some that I really like. But it's a tough question because it's such a sprawling genre. And if you guys have cyberpunk recommendations for novels, but also for just games, movies, all kinds of things, that is those would be great in the comments too. I think they're actually going to be making, out of the Neuromancer saga, I think they might be making a series. So if you guys know about that also, I'd love to hear more about it in the comments. I haven't read too much about it yet. So, okay. And then someone asked about horror lit recommendations. So I'm going to dovetail that a little bit. So horror literature. Again, with horror literature, I want to try to recommend a couple things. Somebody asked for any recommendations I might have in horror literature, so I want to try to recommend a couple things that maybe people haven't heard of or read. As far as horror literature goes, I really like Edgar Allan Poe. You guys could start maybe if you haven't read Edgar Allan Poe. I did a video years ago on Cask of Amontillado, so you could listen to that if you want. But I really love The Mask of the Red Death as a good starting point. But Edgar Allan Poe is wonderful. And I love Shirley Jackson as a horror writer, so that's a great place to go. But I think those are so well known. One that is really cool is called A Short Stay in Hell. This is a novella that I've been recommending a lot lately. And again, let me find out the year on A Short Stay in Hell, because this is more recent. This was 2009. It's a little bit harder to find. It's by Stephen L. Peck. And it is not straight up horror. It is one of those really cool books that I think mixes a lot of things. So I would say it mixes horror, fantasy, sci-fi, comedy, spec fiction, even philosophy. It has a little bit of comparative religion, very light. But A Short Stay in Hell is really interesting, and it has moments that are quite tense. I mean, thriller elements, romance elements. it is such a fun package of a book. It's one of those books where if you guys are looking for a book to get you back into reading, you haven't read anything for a while, I really recommend it because it's quick and moves along fast, and it sort of has all of these really interesting beat changes in it, where it's shifting through different genres. I find it beautiful, and it's just such a journey. So if you read A Short Stay in Hell, let me know what you think about it. It's kind of my mission to have people read it and tell me what they think about it. I am planning, this is a little bit further in the future, but a discussion on Zoroastrianism, which is one of the religions talked about in the book. So that's a really good one. Another one I read that's also not very long, and I read more recently, that's not straight up horror, is called The Vegetarian. And this is originally, I think, published in Korean, I believe. Let me check. So yeah, this is a South Korean novel, and it was originally published in 2007. And it's by Han Kang. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, please correct me. But I don't know if you would call The Vegetarian a horror novel or not. I wouldn't just reduce it to that. But I would say that it's beautiful. It's purposely disturbing. There's definitely body horror in it. There's social horror, what I would call social horror, kind of the same themes that I think Ira Levin sometimes writes about when society itself becomes the monster. And I think that there's definite explorations of grief. And so yes, The Vegetarian, if you can handle some pretty disturbing content, I think The Vegetarian is a really, really, really special little book. It is strange and sometimes challenging, and I really enjoyed it. So if you're into horror literature but not looking for like the most straightforward horror and looking for something maybe a little bit genre bending, I would recommend A Short Stay in Hell and The Vegetarian, just to give you guys something a little bit different. So those would be my answers to that. Okay, somebody asked about the 2026 F1 changes here. So yes, so for those of you who maybe don't follow Formula One or racing as much, they change obviously the regulations, the formula for racing and what's allowed. So they've recently announced some of the changes that will be required for the designs in 2026. Now, I have not, for the last few years, I have not followed F1 as closely. I still follow it, I still watch it. I used to watch like every qualifying, all of the pre-show content, all of the races, all of the post-show content, all of the interviews, all of the analysis. It was like a huge, huge part of my life. I used to go to races. Once I had my child, that slowed down, partially just because there was not as much, nearly as much time for that. And also, I became just less interested. The last era has been less interesting to me, and I if it's been super interesting to you, that's fantastic. For me, it's hasn't been quite as enthralling, but I still enjoy. So anyway, so my understanding of some of these changes, I hope I haven't looked at this in a few weeks. So if they have made announcements of different changes, by now, forgive me, but this is my understanding, I think, of some of those changes. So as far as the power unit is concerned, right? So let's see, I'm going to make myself a couple notes to the power unit. My understanding of that is that there will be more battery power, so like equal electric and internal combustion power. So that and 100% sustainable fuels. That's, great. I like that there's been more of a push toward making F1, more green, not just in performative ways. Obviously, some of it is performative, but to some degree, that can matter. It can set a tone, and it can certainly set a tone in marketing throughout the industry. So, to some degree, it does matter. So, it also matters beyond, the environmental progress, which is important. The cost reduction matters, right? So that to me means more competition, and that is one of the things that has been disappointing, in the last years. Oh, it's always disappointing to see when there's just not very much competition, and if there's not competition even within the dominant team, then it's especially kind of snooze-worthy, right? It's not very interesting. So more competition comes when cost reduction comes, and cost reduction comes when you're using power units that are more affordable, and these power units will be more affordable. So I think that's good. My understanding is that the front and rear wings will be movable, so that can make for more exciting wheel-to-wheel action, which is always, better for more dynamic racing. So I think that could be interesting. Now, I know that Red Bull notoriously is unhappy with some of the technical issues with this setup. They talk about excessive downshifting that comes with these power units. I tend to think that they sort of inflate these issues so they can stand against it, because from Red Bull's perspective, why make changes when you're dominating? But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's no merit to what they're saying. So I think overall it should be interesting. I really think it would be nice to see a little bit of a change up, and again, being able to just see more of a real competition out there is going to be so much healthier for the sport. I think, what's interesting is, especially as like Drive to Survive ends, for example, I think a lot of the American audience that has come in, a lot of the global audience that has come into F1, you really risk losing a lot of that exposure if you don't keep the sport interesting. I think it's really a pivotal point right now to keep it interesting, to keep it competitive. So it would be nice if some of these changes allow for that, but we will see, right? So anyway, I would love to hear what everyone else is thinking. I know these are controversial changes. They always are. So let me know what you think. I'm going to be working on, hopefully this will be a ways out too, because I'm kind of still in silly season here, but I would love to know people's opinions on what they think the next couple of years of F1 is going to be, and what these changes might sort of betoken for the sport. So feel free to tell me about that. Okay. Somebody asked, what do you do for work, and what does your voice relax people in real life? Okay. What do I do for work? I actually, this is speaking of controversial, I homeschool my son. I know a lot of people find homeschool to be controversial especially because of lack of regulation. I completely agree with that. I think that regulation is so important. At the same time, it is something where it is up to sort of each individual parent to determine the level of education they're providing. So I hold my own personal homeschool to very rigorous standards. And my reason for homeschooling is that my son is autistic. When he was very young, he had such intense sensory issues that he was not able to be in a standard classroom. Things like the bell ringing, fire alarm, other kids, screens, things like that were incredibly overwhelming and disturbing to him, lights, certain kinds of things like that. However, we did lots of testing, and cognitively and academically, he was many, many years above his grade level. So I had, growing up, volunteered working with special needs children and tutoring them for many years already. So I knew that, what happens a lot of times in special needs classrooms is that a lot of the attention does end up going to the kids who have the highest need for a lot of times basic functioning and that kind of thing. And a lot of times our schools are really, really underfunded in this way. I knew that my son going to school was going to be, he was going to have a hard time finding a situation where he would both be challenged academically and cognitively, but then supported in the ways in which he was still developing more slowly. So after a lot of discussion and thought and research, I decided to homeschool him. And it has been absolutely wonderful for us. We're very, very lucky to be able to do it. And we use a talented and gifted curriculum, so he is able to do some pretty incredible things. He is a relatively remarkable 6-year-old. He was asking me to explain Chevron doctrine to him today, and he gets very excited when he hears new concepts and ideas, and sometimes will not go to sleep. I say he pontificates himself to sleep because he'll just he'll sit up in bed just talking and talking and talking about, lately it's been ancient Egypt, but how children sort of are, but he gets quite interested and invested in things. So I really, really, really enjoy being able to teach him, but I take it quite seriously. It's very important to me that we stay not just on top of state standards and national standards, but far ahead of them. And at the same time, it's important to me that he gets a normal childhood with socialization and a chance to play with other kids and do all of the things that other kids would do. And we have pretty constant conversations about if he wants to, if he ever wants to go to public school, he's always welcome to. But yeah, that's what I do right now and have for the last, for years and years and years now. So we enjoy that. We just finished up and are just starting our summer break, but it's been really, really lovely. So that's lately what I do. And then my voice in real life, I think that I've been told that I talk very quickly, and I'm also pretty playful. I really like to sort of make jokes and kind of riff with people. I really like to banter and play around. So I think that people in life will tell me my voice is sort of like cutesy or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know if it's very relaxing or not in real life. Like I said, I'm very peppy, I think. So I don't know how extremely relaxing it is. I think I'm maybe a little too naturally energetic to be super relaxing. But anyway, but yes, good questions. Somebody asked about if I have any special interests that you guys don't know about. You mentioned that I talk about games and racing and books and things like that, but are there any things that I don't talk about or that I've started liking recently? I like so many things, just like all of you guys do. It's fun to be able to just kind of pick and choose all of my passions and things to share with you all. I really love film. So I love movies and film, especially older ones. I like pre-code film. I like international film. Lately, I've been going through sort of like all the A24 films, all the Sean Baker films I can, and watching them. But I don't know. I love film in general, and I love animals. I think that's pretty evident. But I'm super passionate about animals and protecting animals, and I really like clothes and fashion a whole lot. So that's something I've always loved. My husband has always, well, not always, but he works in the fashion industry, so that's always been nice for me. I like clothes, definitely, and mostly I like the history of fashion. I love design in general. I think design is this beautiful merging of art and life, and so whether it's industrial design or fashion or interior design or web design or anything, I think design is where we merge art and living, and so clothes are sort of the art we live our lives in, and I love that. Hi, it's Yen. I know. Yeah. I really love history. I especially love maritime history, the history of shipwrecks and things. Please stay tuned. Watch this space about that. Philosophy, art, I love. I really love ballet. I like, I have a real passion for current events and politics. I have always tried to keep this space fairly politics free. I'm not deliberately trying to be anodyne, but I am trying to make sure that this is a space that's a refuge from that kind of friction, because I think that there are so many great spaces out in the world where we can discuss those ideas and let them breathe. And I think it's mutually important that we have spaces where we can just kind of come together as people without any kind of affiliations. And so I try to keep this space sort of free of a lot of that stuff. But at my core, it's always been something I've been interested in. My dad was a political science major, and so that was always something we had sort of between us. I've had members of my family in Congress, and just it's something that I think is interesting on a I guess on a philosophical level, because I have an interest in rhetoric. I have an interest in kind of the game theory of all of it and how it plays out, but also an interest in just the way people represent one another and our entire system. I have an interest in the Supreme Court. I think our judicial system is super interesting. The finer points of how it works and the sort of theory behind it is all very, very interesting to me. So I really love like anime and manga. Japanese culture has always been very, very interesting to me since I was a kid. Again, I think because I started playing a lot of Square Enix games when I was little, it just kind of gets into your system. It's molecular to me. I really loved that they just made a really, really capable version of Shogun. I loved it so much. I think that's such a beautiful book, and I think they finally made it into a beautiful series. If you guys haven't seen Shogun, recommend it. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm interested in, and so yeah, I think it's really fun to be able to share a lot of it with you guys in making a variety of videos. And I think it's so nice that I get a lot of feedback from you all about the things that you like too, because like I said, so often it seems like so many of us are into kind of the same things. I think one, if you get interested in, like I said, like if you grew up playing certain kinds of video games, you usually then get exposed to certain kinds of movies and certain kinds of books and et cetera, et cetera. There's sort of a web of all of it, isn't there? So Okay, somebody asked about, I mentioned in my water painting video that I was working on a video about Hellenistic philosophy, and they were wondering when is it coming out. So I just wanted to say it's coming out really soon. I've had the work done on it for quite a while. I just wanted to make sure that I had the right equipment for it because it's really important to me. It's kind of a pet project, and since I've been back, I'm kind of having to, one, remember kind of how to do sound setup and everything like that, and two, testing out new environments, new equipment, that kind of thing. In my house that I'm in now, I'm in a totally different place than I was years ago, so, you know, testing out different rooms for different sound qualities, different things like that. I really wanted the Hellenistic philosophy video to be a good one, if I can make it good, so it should be coming out really soon. I have a schedule of the next like 2 months of videos that I have planned, so it should be coming out, like I said, I think it should be coming out this summer. Videos have been a little bit harder just with being sick. It's just there are times and days when I'm at the doctor so much or I'm just not feeling well, and it's frustrating because in my heart I'm actually so excited about making content, and it's one of the things that kind of picks me up when I'm feeling a little bit down lately. But then I just don't quite have the energy to do it, or I don't quite have the time to do it because of all the pesky appointments and stuff. And so yeah, I really want to get to it. So coming soon. I believe my very next video will be the last house flipper video in the series about the community center, and this one has a little bit of a twist, which I think will be fun. So that should be my very next video coming quite soon, and then I have some really fun things, and the Hellenistic philosophy one will be among kind of the next batch. So yeah. But thank you for being interested. I'm really glad. I was worried people would think that sounded like a snooze fest. And if you guys end up liking it, I actually will take it. I want to take it and maybe break it down into even more from there, either breaking down some of the philosophies within it or going back maybe earlier to Aristotle. So yeah, we'll go from there. So thank you so much for having interest in it, though. It means a lot that even if one person's interested and excited about it, that means a whole lot to me. So, okay. I'm going to take a few more. I know this is kind of meandering, but I like to fall asleep to stuff like this, just people kind of chattering. So maybe you're bored of hearing me talk and it's putting you to sleep right now, I hope. So, okay. Someone asked, what did you think of Andromeda? Not Andromeda the myth, Andromeda the Mass Effect game. Yeah. Okay, so Real Talk Express, guys. I DNF'd that sucker. I almost never DNF a game. Couple reasons why. DNF did not finish. Couple reasons why. I think the main reason why is because I was playing Andromeda when I was pregnant. When I was pregnant, I got something called hyperemesis gravidarum. Big word. Big couple words. It means roughly I was gnarly sick. I was very sick when I was pregnant, and I was constantly nauseous. So playing any game, like looking at a screen for very long, was difficult. It was difficult. And that on top of, I really think I got maybe 85% of the way done too. It's weird that I didn't finish. I kept trying to love it. it was fine. I was mystified, I guess, that I sort of felt like they threw their B team at that game, when, you know, it should have been, it should have been something so spectacular. Maybe that's not fair to have had such high expectations, but I think everybody did. It also felt a little bit like it had that designed by committee feel, you know, just felt like it needed to have everything in it. And I mean, a lot of games were starting to feel like that at that time. A lot of them still kind of do. I got some of that sense a little bit playing like Starfield, but something about it, it's been so many years, it's hard to remember exactly specifically, but it just didn't have the same soul, or like the characters, the mission, the entire ethos of it just didn't pull me in as much. And I'm trying to remember even the specifics of like the battle system. You know, I remember riding around on the planets. Like, it was fine. Exploration didn't feel like super rewarding. I don't think I despised it or anything. I felt kind of, I still to this day feel kind of nonplussed about it. I have a lot of hope for the next one. Legendary is really, really cool. So I'm excited for the future of Mass Effect. I really, really am. But Andromeda was not really, it was a letdown for me. It was. But if you loved it, like, all the power to you. It makes me happy that someone loved it. And parenthetical about Starfield, I actually did kind of enjoy Starfield. I know this is a completely different game, a completely different developer, but since I mentioned it, my expectations for Starfield were maybe different, but I didn't dislike it as much as a lot of people did. I thought it was enjoyable. You know, it wasn't I think Bethesda's best effort or anything like that, but it was enjoyable. So, but yeah, Andromeda, not my very, very favorite. So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna finish up really soon, but I wanted to just try to get as many as I could. Oh, somebody had a nice question about what our favorite family games to play are, like video games, favorite family video games to play together. So one thing I'll say is we have a little family arcade. I had this idea when we were building this house of making the laundry room into what I call the Game and Wash. And it's a laundry room / arcade. And so there's, we have arcade machines in it. So we have like Joust, Galaga, Rampage, Dig Dug. And so it's fun to play, especially to show my son these old school arcade games. And I'm especially into Rampage. It was always, my brother and I would play Rampage for just mindless hours. It's the greatest. But playing all these actual arcade games together is really fun. And yes, I am going to do an arcade video. That's on my list, because I love the haptics, the sounds of the clicking and the joysticks and stuff. And then just as far as, you know, like actual like modern games, we really love some Minecraft together. Lego Star Wars, so much fun together. I definitely recommend that. All of the Lego games are really good starting points. On PS5, there's Astro's Playroom. If you guys have PS5, Astro's Playroom came with it as like a demo. So fun. They're gonna make another Astro game, but my son is just obsessed with it. It's really cute and fun. It's like a little platformer. Sometimes my son likes to play House Flipper with me. There's a Minecraft, almost like Diablo-esque dungeon crawler type game. It's really fun. So yeah, we like doing those together. Somebody asked, oh, who is your favorite vault hunter? Okay, this is an easy question. Mordecai, period. It's Mordecai. I like typically to play stealth, rogue, like sniper types, or sometimes I like to play like magic slash like healer slash field control types, but I really like stealth ranged characters. So Mordecai is great. Really though, I'm there for Bloodwing. Bloodwing. I'm not ready to talk about Bloodwing yet though. It's really sad. Anyway, this is a Borderlands question for anyone confused. But yeah, Mordecai slash Bloodwing. Actually Bloodwing, really Bloodwing. The answer is Bloodwing. Okay. Anyway, thank you for testing my mic with me. I know this is really informal and silly. I probably won't do a ton of this because it feels really self-indulgent just to talk about myself. But if it's something you do enjoy, we can do it again sometime. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your recommendations. Tell me your favorite things, and all my love to you. And I will be back with an actual video super soon if I can help it. So, okay, be well, and we'll talk soon.